We must all suffer one of two things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Those words have echoed through generations, a sobering reminder that the choices we make today will ripple through our lives tomorrow. And at the core of those choices lies one of the greatest battles we'll ever wage: the battle for emotional mastery. You see, friends, our emotions are like wild stallions, powerful and untamed. Left unchecked, they can trample our dreams, uproot our plans, and leave us battered in the dust of broken ambitions. But when we learn to master those emotions, to rein them in with the strong hands of discipline and wisdom, that's when we unleash a force more potent than any external circumstance that fate could hurl our way. I'm not here to peddle some impossible fantasy of never feeling anger, sadness, or fear. That's a fool's errand, my friends, because to be human is to experience the full kaleidoscope of emotions that color our existence. No, true mastery doesn't come from eliminating emotion, but from understanding it, from developing the mindful awareness to choose how we respond when those intense feelings arise. Imagine you're watching a suspenseful movie and the protagonist finds themselves in a harrowing situation. Perhaps they're trapped in a desperate chase or facing down a seemingly insurmountable challenge. As the tension builds, your heart starts pounding, your palms grow sweaty, and you find yourself gripped by the same sense of fear and anxiety as the character on screen. But then you remind yourself, this is just a movie. Those are just actors reading lines on a set. In that moment of recognition, the fear dissolves because you've separated the transient emotional experience from the concrete reality around you. That's the power of emotional mastery in action. When we can step back, examine our feelings with objectivity, and respond with intention rather than blind reactivity, we become the authors of our own stories rather than falling victim to the whims of circumstance. We gain the clarity to make wise choices, the resilience to bounce back from setbacks, and the determination to charge forward, undaunted towards our grandest ambitions. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Sure, Jim, that all sounds great in theory, but how do I actually master these intense human experiences that seem to control me more than I control them? Well, my friends, just like any skill worth possessing, it takes practice, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to growth. But you don't have to walk that path alone. For I brought along a few trusted companions to guide us, timeless principles that have helped countless others befriend their emotions and cultivate true mastery. The first of these principles is self-awareness. You can't hope to steer a ship you can't see, can you? In the same way, developing a keener, more attuned sense of your inner emotional landscape is crucial. Take stock regularly. What am I feeling in this moment? Where is that feeling manifesting in my body as tension or tightness? What thoughts or memories might be triggering this emotional response? The more intimately you know yourself, the more power you'll have to work with your emotions rather than against them. You'll spot the early warning signs before they spiral out of control, and have a suite of calming techniques at your disposal. Practices like conscious breathing, meditative awareness, or simply pausing to inject some rationality into your mental chatter. Our next guiding star on this journey is perspective. For you see, my friends, it's rarely the concrete circumstances of our lives that provoke such intense emotional turmoil. It's the stories we tell ourselves about those circumstances that breathe life into our fears, our anger, our worries. A master storyteller understands that the same basic narrative can be told as a tragic comedy or an heroic epic simply by adjusting the lens through which it's viewed. In the same way, once you start observing your self-talk, you'll realize how much power you have to reframe seemingly disastrous setbacks as inevitable obstacles on the path to growth. Give you a personal example. Years ago, I was pursuing a business opportunity that I'd pinned all my hopes and dreams upon. I'd invested countless hours perfecting my pitch, honing my plans, and breathing life into this ambitious venture. So when I got that dreaded rejection letter, you can bet those stallions of anger, disappointment, and self-doubt came stampeding through with disastrous effect. For a few paralyzing weeks, I fell into a pit of woe, licking my wounds and ready to give up on my big goals entirely. But then, as my mindfulness practice kicked in, something shifted. I started viewing that rejection not as a cosmic injustice, but as a chance to learn from my miscalculations and refine my approach. I reframed it as feedback, not failure, a stepping stone, not a dead end. With that healthy perspective restored, the anger faded, the hopelessness lifted, and I was able to pour my energy into plotting an even bolder comeback. And let me tell you, when I finally did achieve that long-sought success, it tasted all the sweeter for the struggle that preceded it. Our final guidepost on the road to emotional mastery, that would be purpose. A grand, inspiring vision that transcends any single setback loss or emotional firestorm. You see, when we're living for something bigger than ourselves, for an ideal that fills our souls with passion and resolve, we become far less rattled by the ups and downs that life inevitably brings. Think of an Olympic athlete, years deep into their training regimen. Sure, there are hard days, excruciating workouts that drain them physically, nagging injuries that test their mental fortitude. But underlying every grueling step of that journey is an unwavering purpose, a vision of standing atop the podium with a gold medal around their neck. It's that compelling vision that propels them forward, that steadies their emotions and silences the inner critic whispering, just give up. My friends, we all need a grand purpose like that in our lives. A mission that speaks to our deepest values and ignites our souls with resolve. Because when we're truly pursuing something magnificent, something that fires our passion and drives us to grow, well, that's when we stop being mere hostages to our emotions and start channeling them as fuel to propel us towards ever greater heights. The path of emotional mastery is not one of transcending our humanity, but of leaning into it fully while retaining the mindful awareness to respond rather than simply react. It's about turning our greatest challenges into our biggest teachers, our deepest pains into the compost from which our most profound growth can emerge. So I'll leave you with this. However turbulent your emotional landscape may appear today, have faith that you possess the power to cultivate peace, clarity, and unshakable resilience at your core. Nurture your self-awareness, embrace a flexible, optimistic perspective, and anchor yourself to a grand purpose that adds meaning to your each and every struggle. In doing so, you won't just master your emotions. You'll harness them as unstoppable fuel to create the exceptional life your dreams demand. The path is arduous, my friends, but those who walk it become truly unstoppable forces, motivation made manifest in the world. And let me be clear, my friends, embarking on this quest for emotional mastery is not just some lofty, philosophical pursuit. No, cultivating this power will pay very real, tangible dividends in every facet of your life. Just think about it. How much more effective could you be in your career if you didn't allow passing frustrations or insecurities to hijack your focus and decision-making? How much more fulfilling could your relationships become if you responded to inevitable conflicts with thoughtful presence rather than explosive reactivity? The professional tennis player who berates themselves after every mistake, who gets consumed by anger over a bad call from the umpire, well, their emotional turbulence puts them at a massive disadvantage against the ice-cool competitor who simply shakes it off and refocuses on the next point. In those high-pressure situations, emotional mastery is quite literally the difference between champions and also-rans. The same applies in the workplace. I've seen it play out time and again. The manager who gets flustered and flies off the handle when challenges arise versus the leader who cultivates poise and presence even in the most stressful circumstances. One of those approaches inspires loyalty and top performance. The other sows negativity, chaos, and an eagerness to jump ship at the first opportunity. On a more personal level, think about the last time you found yourself in the grips of an explosive argument with a loved one. Harsh words flying, deeply held resentments bubbling to the surface. Problem after problem getting heaped atop the original grievance. Chances are, very little actually got resolved in that heated moment. Hearts may have been broken, bridges burned, deep emotional wounds inflicted that could take years to heal. But what if, instead of matching raised voice with raised voice, you were able to take a pause, recognize the emotional storm raging within, and make the conscious choice to hear the other person out from a place of compassionate understanding, to separate the heat of the moment reactivity from the core issue at hand. Just like that argument between intimate partners, there lies the potential for deep connection and resolution, or tragic, avoidable fallout. You see, my friends, mastering our emotions isn't just some abstract life hack. It's the radical act of claiming authorship over our most foundational human experiences, of saying, I will not be a passive hostage to my circumstances. I will cultivate the awareness and intentionality to show up as my highest, most empowered self no matter what life brings. That's the power we're working towards here. That's the essence of true emotional mastery. Now, as we roll up our sleeves and get down to the practical work ahead, let me reiterate. This journey will be anything but easy. Worthwhile growth rarely is. The path will be strewn with stumbling blocks, pockmarked by setbacks and emotional tugs that threaten to pull you off course. Mastering this domain requires patience, diligence, and a steadfast commitment to something greater than your baser impulses. So I'll let you in on a secret. My friends, that very difficulty, that arduous struggle, is perhaps the greatest gift this quest for emotional mastery has to offer. For you see, it's in withstanding the intense heat of those growth experiences that the impurities get burned away and our truest, most resilient character gets forth. The businessman who crumbles in the face of the first career setback, the couple who calls it quits at the first major disagreement, the entrepreneur who abandons their vision at the first serious obstacle. Well, they'll never savor the sweet fruits that await those who persist, who stop viewing life's unavoidable trials as barriers and start seeing them as aerobic training for their emotional endurance and willpower. Just ask anyone who's achieved anything transcendent in this world. The artist, the athlete, the revolutionary. I guarantee you, they'll all tell the same tale of want, sacrifice, and nearly giving up 100 times along the way. But it was their ability to feel the anguish of those setbacks fully while refusing to submit to them that ultimately propelled them to greatness. So when the inevitable storms of self-doubt, fear, and frustration start brewing on your own journey, don't resist them. Breathe into them. Let the intensity of those emotions fortify your resolution rather than derail. See them as signs that you're doing the real hard work of mastering what it means to be gloriously, unshakably human. And let me be clear, confronting those emotional gauntlets won't just build your mental and spiritual fortitude. Over time, it will quite literally rewire your brain in profound ways. You see, every time we choose to work through anxiety or anger with patience and perspective, we're strengthening the neural pathways that underlie those higher capacities. Those vital skills of impulse control, empathy, optimism, they become reinforced through repetition, hardwired into our psyches. Conversely, every instance where we surrender to our basest fears and lash out recklessly only deepens those neural ruts of toxic behavior. The good news? We have the power to sculpt our minds consciously through the intentional effort of emotional mastery. Now, as integral as purpose, perspective, and self-awareness are on this profound journey, there's one more essential ingredient I'd be remiss not to share: community. You see, even the most fiercely self-reliant individualist among us is still an inextricable part of the great web of humanity. We are, at our core, tribal beings, wired to seek out connection, to share our struggles and triumphs, to find meaning through the bonds of empathy and support we weave with others. And let me tell you, having deep, trusted relationships to lean on when you inevitably falter in your emotional mastery practice, that's a gift beyond measure, friends. To have those souls in your corner who can offer objectivity and wisdom when your own vision gets clouded by the emotional storms, who can remind you of your highest aims when the path grows arduous and the self-doubt creeps in. We all need those clear mirrors to show us our best selves. Those raw and honest reflections that cut through the narratives we default to telling ourselves. Because even as we work on cultivating unshakable self-awareness, there will always be blind spots, subtle distortions, and limiting self-talk that we can't quite catch on our own. So I'd encourage you all to be intentional about building your own community of growth. Those kindred spirits who share your commitment to personal mastery and who can lend accountability and encouragement when you need it most. Iron sharpens iron, as the saying goes. But beyond simply having that supportive tribe in your corner, true emotional mastery also requires extending compassion outward and making service to others a profound part of your purpose. You see, when our focus is entirely inward, consumed by our own emotional dramas and ego-driven pursuits, It's all too easy to get mired in negativity and blind to the blessings that surrounds us. We lose perspective, getting swept up in the turbulent tides of passing feelings that can sap our energy and blind us to the bigger picture. But when we make the conscious choice to be of service to others, whether that's volunteering, caring for loved ones, or simply making a habit of small acts of kindness, something powerful happens. Our spiritual and emotional resilience gets fortified. Our mind shifts away from the obsessive, self-focused thought loops that so often stoke our anxiety and anger. And we find deeper fulfillment by playing an active role in alleviating the suffering of others. It's almost paradoxical, isn't it? That losing ourselves in service and compassion for our fellow humans could be the greatest gift we give ourselves on this journey of emotional mastery. But that's exactly what the ancient traditions and spiritual teachers have been trying to impart for millennia. So I challenge all to make contribution and care for others a non-negotiable part of your personal practice moving forward. Go out and find causes that stir your soul and put your values into action. Whether that's tutoring underprivileged kids, volunteering at an animal shelter, or showing up with meals and support for overstressed new parents in your community. When you get trapped in the gravitational pull of your own emotional vortexes, shift your consciousness to looking for ways, large or small, that you can lift others. I guarantee you that simple act of getting outside your own head and into the business of service will strengthen your emotional agility in ways you can't yet comprehend. It will open your heart, widen your perspective, and harden your resolve to stay grounded, even when the winds of turmoil howl fiercest. True masters, you'll find, aren't just experts at managing their own inner storms. They're beacons who help guide others through the tempests as well. And speaking of learning from the masters, on this journey of emotional mastery, it would be downright negligent for me not to encourage you to dive into the profound well of wisdom contained in the world's enduring philosophies, spiritual teachings, and personal growth traditions. Because you see, while the insights and strategies I'm sharing today are powerful, they are but a single thread in an immense tapestry of human knowledge on this very topic. From the Buddhist concepts of mindfulness and non-attachment to the ancient Greek ideals of moderation and self-knowledge, to the indigenous wisdom of revering the profound intelligence of our emotions rather than trying to subjugate them. In each of these worldviews, you'll find so nurturing substance to enrich your path. So I implore you, get curious. Read the sacred texts and listen to the modern sages. Because at the end of the day, this work of cultivating emotional mastery is far too vast and nuanced for any one teacher or tradition to capture fully. We'd be doing ourselves a disservice not to drink deeply from humanity's accumulated wellsprings of hard-won insight on the matter. Better yet, go out and immerse yourself in other cultures and belief systems through first-hand experience whenever you're able. For as powerful as the written and spoken word can be, there's something utterly irreplaceable about embodying these teachings amidst the very context that birthed them. To feel the unmistakable energetic resonance of wisdom made flesh in ritual, community, and daily practice. Imagine meditating among the ancient temples of the East, or participating in ceremonial sweat lodges with indigenous elders, passing down their ways of being present and attuned to the natural world. To learn the art of emotional mastery from the very civilizations that have refined and kept these practices alive for thousands of years. Well, that's an initiation into embodied knowledge that no book or lecture could ever quite replicate. You see, my friends, at this level, we're no longer just talking about coping strategies or surface-level tips for stress management. No, we're doing the deeper, infinitely more potent work of recalibrating our very existence to harmonize with the rhythms of a universe that runs far richer and more orchestrated than our egoic minds could ever comprehend. We're retraining our awareness to be open vessels for the profound intelligence and creativity that flows through all life. We're remembering at a cellular level that our emotions aren't obstacles to be vanquished, but sensitive guidance systems nudging us towards growth and greater alignment with our highest purpose. And I don't know about you, but I can't think of a more worthy use of this one prodigiously lucky spin around the sun we've been given than to dive fully into mastering that art of living as enlightened authors, scripting the full color, emotionally textured masterpieces our souls came here to create. So yes, make emotional mastery your life's preeminent undertaking, but do it not from a place of muting your richly human experience, of battling your feelings into cold submission. Rather, embrace this path as a homecoming to your most vibrant, authentic, emotionally aware, and fluent self. Let it be a joyous unshackling from the delusions of separateness that keep us tossing in the tumult of reactivity. Approach each challenging feeling not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a divine eye delivering coded messages about where your consciousness most yearns to grow. Anger may be whispering that you've strayed from your fiercest self-protections and values. Sadness may be nudging you to come into deeper acceptance of life's ethereal, impermanent nature. Fear may be clearing space for new perspectives and creative solutions to emerge from the ashes of the familiar. When you get profoundly intimate with the language of your emotions in this way, you'll find that they are not the problematic overlords we're so often conditioned to diminish or outmuscle. No! Our emotions are honored ancestors and ancient guides aching to share their stabilizing, energizing, and clairvoyant wisdom if only we'll get reacquainted. So go ahead, take their metaphorical hands, let them pull you beyond your safe, limited identity and into the awe-inspiring expanse of your most realized self. Get crushed by life's waves over and over, each time emerging more buoyant, more graceful in holding both the exquisite joys and bitter pains this human existence contains. Walk directly into your discomforts over and over with rawness and curiosity. You'll come to find they can't destabilize you because you've rooted yourself in something far more powerful than any passing feeling could ever upend. A centered awareness, a grand purpose, an identity that flows perpetually rather than stagnating or contracting against reality's eternal transformations. And let me leave you with one final reminder on this sacred inner work. There is no there to ultimately arrive at, no perfect, emotionless utopia to ascend towards. Even the most realized mystics and masters still experience the full spectrum of feeling that comes with being a radically alive, sensitive, and awake being. Their mastery is not in transcending the emotional human experience, but in maintaining the continual presence of heart and mind to ride those powerful energies consciously as sprawling forces for good rather than ignorant destruction. It's not resisting your depths, but communing intimately, allowing the wisdom of your emotions to move through you, alchemizing even the most turbulent energies into sources of insight, motivation, presence, and inspired action. So let this be your charge, your grand quest from this day forwards, to stand intrepid in the eye of emotional hurricanes, to meet each arising feeling not as a combatant taking up arms, but as a curious scientist seeking to understand and unlock its secret transmissions, to breathe fully and freely, trusting the foundational stability of your purpose and anchored awareness to hold space for the entire atmospheric system to pass through your being as it naturally will. In those moments where you feel outmatched, grab the anchors of ritual, of community, of study and contemplation to remind you of the deepest wisdom you've tasted. Draw strength from the testimony of those who've walked this path before you and emerged sages, living embodiments of boundless heart married to imperturbable serenity. Attune yourself to the rhythms of the natural world, which from a distance may seem chaotic, but reveals profound harmony upon closer inspection. For you see, friends, as vast and raging as the meteorological and emotional storms may appear in any given moment, they are all underpinned by precise science, dynamic systems behaving with observable laws and cycles. And once you start seeing the patterns, feeling into the archetypal forces that play beneath the surface turbulence, you'll begin presencing as the aware, non-resistant vessel for whatever this mysterious energy dance summons next. From that rooted state of presence, emotions start to appear less like inevitable tsunamis crashing over you and more like actors on a grand stage playing out their necessary drama, so that creation can keep eternally exploring and expressing itself. Your personal dramas simply become portals into witnessing the astonishing dynamism of a psyche that encompasses all psyches, an interactive text prompting your deepest realizations of what's really real here. And believe me, my friends, once you start operating from that open, emotionally fluent vantage point, everything will start orienting around your presence in wholly new ways. You'll find the career that organically allows you to embody your deepest genius and share your most catalyzing gifts. You'll attract souls into your life who can dance improvised alongside the depths you contain. Partners who inspire you to keep growing rather than contracting. Life, simple life with all its chaos and beauty, will keep showing up as your richest spiritual curriculum. So don't let yourself tame this path for more effortless days, or a way to sidestep the intense human experience with all its brilliance and shadow. No! Embrace emotional mastery as the most direct road into honoring your emotional truth, amplifying your sensitivity, and learning to leverage your feelings as profound assets and awareness, expanding allies rather than unconscious drivers always taking the wheel. If you can truly embody and integrate what we've explored today, you'll find that emotions stop being something to buffer or discharge and become instead the very source code you fluently author your most memorable and impactful life from. You'll find that they're never the obstacles, but always the fuel, the primordial clay, allowing you to continually reshape and redefine what it means to be truly, gloriously, vibrantly human. So let them flow dense, rich, and wise. The full acrobatic spectrum of what your blessed existence makes available in each eternal moment. Let the tides of pleasure and pain, triumph and devastation come, treating each as your humble teacher, a sacred messenger from the depths that only deepens your understanding of this grand dream we're dreaming together. Let your emotional energies instruct your mind, fortify your purpose, and expand your compassion until your very presence incarnates the timeless message. I will not just withstand storms. I will be the storm that catalyzes every rebirth worthy of me.